Let's start with Zulema Pastenas. I hope I'm getting her pronunciation right. The reason I don't know it is because she's been a ghost. We've only seen her name. We've never seen her. She's never spoken. She has kept totally silent for the last 3.5 years. But there she is. There's Zulema Pastenas. For whatever reason, she got in real thick with Lori a year before all of this parade of horribles began. She got into the cult, fell for Chad and all the garbage that he was spewing. Chad told Zulema he was Jesus Christ's brother. I know, right? Who would believe that stuff? But she did, and Lori did. A bunch of other people did too. And it didn't take them long to be hook, line, and sinker with all of this garbage. And today, she was just tossing out all that garbage from the stand, telling the court everything they needed to know, telling the jurors everything they needed to know about the things that Lori and Chad said and did, and the things that she started to get really scared that they did. How about this? It's a total wild card. Nobody knew if she's still in the cult, right? We didn't know if she was going to get up on the stand and sing Lori's praises. But the fact that she's a prosecution witness was probably a good indication, right? And she did a pretty good job for the prosecution. How about this one? She told the court today that Lori asked her to be in a casting ceremony, some crazy wizardry where magically, if you just think it, something will happen. You'll be able to expel demons from people that you don't like. And Lori didn't like her husband, Charles. Probably because she was sleeping with another guy named Chad. But that's for the next block, and there's going to be a lot on that, like texts and emails and all sorts of real juicy, ugly stuff she really wishes we didn't see. But Lori gets Zulema to do a whole religious ceremony, and guess what the purpose was? To crash the car that her husband Charles was driving with her son JJ in it. Because that would get the demons out of them. That would kill them. That would help. That's what Zulema said she took part in. A ceremony. It didn't work. The car didn't crash, and they didn't die that way. They eventually both would die. She also decided to get married to Lori's brother, Alex, because he's in the cult. Why not? Kind of met him, started dating, got engaged real quick, got married real quick, and then he died real quick, 11 days later. Very strange. She knows the secrets that Lori told her about Lori's kids being possessed with demons. She knows all of them. She knows the motives. She knows about that time when Lori told her that if she couldn't expel the demons from her husband, Charles, and that he had $1 million life insurance policy, she could just, quote, put some pills in his water. What? Do what now? That's what the jury's probably saying in their heads because they can't say it out loud. But they're just like you and me. Well, what they say when they hear that stuff? I want to bring in 2 other people who were in court today. Lauren Matthias is the host of the Hidden True Crime podcast, and Gigi McKelvey is the host of Pretty Lies and Alibis podcast. Okay, so, man, I'm just trying to imagine what it's like for jurors like these, especially if they didn't know anything about this crazy saga that the 3 of us have been following for almost 4 years. Gigi, I'm going to start with you. Did this witness, Zulema Pastenas, the mystery woman we've been waiting for, did she seem credible? Did she seem logical? Did she seem like a moron who got sucked up in a cult and maybe wishes she hadn't? Who did she seem like on the stand?
All of the above. I think that she came across as really credible. I mean, she seemed embarrassed at times to me on the stand. There were times where you could see she felt some shame. But, I mean, she told the story, and it was very weird stuff. And the jury, I'm going to tell you, Ashleigh, they're going to have writer's cramp because they were nonstop writing all throughout the day. It's a lot to take in. But I think she really did a good job for the defense. Terrible for Lori. I really do think. I mean, we just learned so many little nuggets that we've never heard that were put out there today.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, yeah.
So
you know what, Lauren?
Oh, go ahead, Ashleigh.
Button that one up, and then I'm going to get you to respond to one of this piece of testimony that's just bonkers. So go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to add to that some of the strange things that we heard today. We heard that she had lived in not just multiple lives, but there are multiple creations, multiple worlds. that Chad told her that in a past life she was actually Lori's daughter, and so she would refer to her as mother sometimes. There were a lot of nuggets, as you would say.
That's just like totally creepy. I have a whole bunch of other words I can use. I just don't think I'm allowed to say them on TV. So, guys, I want to play this piece of testimony today because when Zulema testified, from what I gather, the jurors were rapt. They listened to everything she said, and she talked about the same pattern that Melanie Gibb talked about yesterday. When it comes to Lori and Chad, if somebody became, difficult or obstinate or didn't let them get what they wanted, they would magically become possessed by a demon, and then magically they would be dead. So here's Zulema on the stand. We can hear her, so let's listen in.
So then Lori said that Ned had been removed, but this time there was even a more powerful demon that had come and possessed Charles.
So she had told you prior to the move to Rexburg that JJ too was being attacked by demons.
Correct.
Okay. What did she say about whether Tylee was being attacked by demons or evil spirits?
Right before she moved to Rexburg, she said that Tylee had been possessed by evil spirit or a demon, and she called it Hillary. Lori told me that Tammy had been possessed by a demon, and that it was no longer her, kind of like the same thing that she had said about Charles, and that she needed my help casting out from her.
Casting out, which means get rid of the evil spirit. I guess that's how they figure it. So, Lauren, were the jurors like rolling their eyes? Were they shocked? Like, how did they react to this stuff?
Honestly, I think one of them, they looked confused. I think they were really processing what they were hearing. Of course, they had yesterday. That was also a bizarre day. And so I think day two, they're like, oh, new witness. And she's telling us some of the same stuff and crazier stuff. So I think they were processing it. They looked confused. As Gigi said, they were taking notes. And with these castings, Zulema was also talking about what was happening at the castings. And they actually showed photos from these castings with Zulema and her friends. They were all the same women here, this sort of inner circle of girlfriends. And it was bizarre. They weren't showing the actual casting. But here is us taking our smiling selfie after the casting. Now, here's us doing a Charlie's Angel pose, smiling for the camera at these castings. The whole thing was strange beginning to end.
Nutty. Yeah, totally nutty. So I'll tell you what, Gigi, I want to play this other piece of sound where Zulema maybe started to get with the program a little bit and was starting to ask questions about the missing kids. JJ and Tylee hadn't been seen. Lots of questions are being asked. So she finally says to her friend Lori and her husband, Lori's brother, Alex, what is up with the kids? And this is how she described it. Let's listen.
When you visited, did you see Tylee at all?
No.
Okay. Did you ask where Tylee was?
Yes.
And what did Lori tell you about where Tylee was?
She said she had to be free.
When she said who is she?
Tylee.
Okay. And who said this to you? Is that what Lori said, that Tylee had to be free?
Correct.
Okay. Did she say where she was staying, where Tylee was actually staying?
When I tried to ask her what she meant by that, she lifted her hand and put it up to my face and said, "Don't ask."
Did you turn to Alex, who you were married to at this time, and ask him about it?
I did.
What did he say?
He was very quiet, not himself, not his usual self. I asked him, how can Kay be looking for JJ when JJ is supposed to be with her? How can the person that's taking care of him be looking for him? And
what did he say to you?
He said, I know.
Yeah, but he didn't say a whole lot more than that. Gigi, I have to remind everybody watching right now that Kay and Larry, the grandparents, are having to digest all of this. Were they both in court? Did they both hear this? And how have they been reacting to this stuff?
They've both been in court. They were there today. Kay was very interested in this testimony. It's like you say, it's kind of a mystery what she has to say. And yeah, so they've had a couple of rows every day, pretty much full of Vallow family members. So yeah, they were hanging on every word of this testimony for sure.
I mean, this one's a lot easier than the day that they talked about the condition of the children's buried bodies. I mean, that was just harrowing. All right, one more piece of testimony I want you guys to talk about here. And that was the moment, like the night that Tammy Daybell was shot at. Whoever shot at her missed, right? She's in her driveway. She thinks it's paintball, but I don't think it's paintball, And then all of a sudden, Zulema testified today that she was with Lori at that same time, and that Lori got a phone call, and she didn't know who was on the other end, but that Lori said these words like, idiot, moron, that idiot can't do anything right by himself. It's astounding. Did they make the connection, Gigi, that they were talking about maybe Alex trying to shoot Tammy dead?
Yeah, I think they did. I mean, it's when they said that he was responsible for Charles's murder, I think the look on their faces, it was a turn for them. Yes. And so I don't think it's a far stretch for them to kind of start piecing together Alex may be the hitman in this family, as he's been called the family hitman.
Yeah. Okay, Lauren, I want you to comment on this next piece of testimony, which you think about Alex as just like this mobster, right? The hitman, the protector, the enforcer, now the dead guy, but clearly somebody who seemed very, very involved in all these killings and definitely did kill Charles. That's a fact. Zulema started to get the sense that something was up, and she started to ask her now husband, like, I don't know what day into the marriage, since it was only an 11-day marriage, but she starts to ask him about what it was like when he shot Charles. Up until this point, everybody thought it was a self-defense thing. We now know it wasn't. But she also kind of tries to get it out of him that, is he connected in any way to the death of Tammy as well? So here's that testimony. Let's listen.
What did he say about what happened to Charles?
I asked him if he was okay after he had just shot someone. I thought he would be like in shock or struggling with what had happened. And he said, Zulema, he was a zombie. And I asked him if he was involved in anything that to do with Tammy's death.
Okay. And then what did he say?
He said no.
Okay. Did you ask him anything else?
Yes, I kept pressuring him.
And then what?
Things were very, very weird at this time. They just seemed that there was so much going on and so just so weird and so bizarre. And I started pressuring him for information. So I told him, I said, what is going on? What is happening? How come they are not here? You don't even know where they're at. We don't even know where they're at now.
When you say they, who are you talking?
Lori and Chad. We don't know where Lori and Chad are at. What is happening?
And what reaction did he have? Ultimately, what did he say?
He was very quiet and unresponsive. And then he said, I think I'm being their fall guy.
So, Lauren, the question is, she sounds like she's seen the light, but cross-examination could certainly rip her up a little bit, considering she was so connected to all of this. Did Cross do a good job of that, or did they try at all?
They tried. They continued over the multiple texts that she sent. She controls the elements, by the way. They are gifts that these individuals, these cult members all have. Zulema's was controlling the elements. She could cause earthquakes and and all those things that a typical person can do that controls the elements. But one thing that she repeated was that Alex's gift was he was a defender and the protector of Lori. And, so I think that, and she said that he absolutely believed that. And I think one thing they're going to try to do in cross-examination is test just how much Zulema actually believed this herself, not how much Alex did, but was Zulema really, was she really believing all of this information?
Yeah.
Well, especially
and I think
this
it's
next little
ironic
bit.
that she's.
Go ahead.
I think it's ironic. She's worried about where the kids are, but yet a few months before, she's trying to cause a car wreck with Charles and JJ, knowing JJ's in the car.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
That part really bothered me. That part, and yes, I know it's all silly mind games, but she believed in this stuff. She believed in it. So yeah, shame on her.
She did.
Okay, I want to just go, before I go to break, I want to play this last little bit because I think it is so telling. I think the jury would be just disgusted by it. But Zulema describes one of the parts of their crap religion that suggests to keep evil spirits from getting back into your body once you've died, you got to do two things. One is you either got to burn the body or you got to bind the body. And I will remind everybody that Tylee was burned and JJ was bound. Here's the testimony.
How do you prevent
prevent from another demon to come in by doing certain things, such as putting water and fire and destroying the body in order to be able to, so that there will be no way that another demon could come in.
Okay. And so in order to make sure a demon doesn't come back, the body has to be destroyed in some way.
Correct.
Burning is one way.
Correct.
Okay, guys, Lauren Matthias and Gigi McKelvey are going to stay with me, but we have to fit in a quick break. And when we come back, there's so much more damning evidence against Lori Vallow that you have got to hear. It didn't come from a friend or a family member, though, this time. It came from Lori and Chad. Thank you very much. Their secret emails and texts they thought no one would ever see, ever. And things that they said they wish the police certainly didn't find. You're going to hear it all next. So there's a really smart rule of thumb. I live by it. We all should. Don't ever write anything down that you wouldn't want to see published in your local paper, or maybe even like the New York Times or a national newspaper. Don't do it. Just don't. Just don't. Just don't. It never disappears. And Charles and Lori probably never heard that, or ignored that, or believed that they were gods, so it didn't matter. It did. It did. It really did. Because one Chandler police detective named Nathan Duncan, who investigated the death of Lori's fourth husband, Charles Vallow, found all her emails. Oh, man. And then also found the ones that Chad wrote and that Charles wrote. And then told everybody in the court what those emails said. And it was delish. For starters, when Charles figured out what Lori was up to, sleeping around with Chad, the leader of the cult, this is what he wrote to her. Is he with whom you're having an affair? Trying to destroy another family? You're evil. I'm going to talk to Tammy in person if I have to. I have emailed and texted her. Your game is up. And here is the detective on the stand reading what Charles decided to write to Tammy. Take a listen.
I apologize to be the one sending this, but something has to be done. I feel it's best if I shed some light on this issue. The subject line in the email is, your husband and my wife, and the body of the email reading, are having an affair. Her name is Lori Vallow. I've got definitive proof if you care to see it. Contact me and I'll share it with you. It's devastating, I know.
You know, it didn't take long. He basically found out 2 weeks before he was dead that she was having this affair. And then he decided to confront Lori even more forcefully about what she was up to. He was fed up. And this is what the detective read that he wrote to his wife, Lori. It's pretty intense. Take a listen.
You accuse me of infidelity, but it's you who have been having an affair. It just keeps killing me. Maybe that's your goal. The fact you will continue to go to the temple after all you've done shocks me. There really is something wrong with you. I really don't want to do what I have to do, but you have to be exposed for what you really are.
And 11 days after that, he was dead, which is fascinating. Here's something interesting. Lori didn't know that she was the beneficiary, or she was not the beneficiary of her now dead husband's life insurance. And she told her boyfriend, Charles, or rather, so many of them, Chad, this. And Chad said back to her, it'll be interesting if it got changed after he had 2 bullets in his chest. Hello. Lori texts Chad back saying, Charles changed it in March. He was probably Ned before we got rid of him. I will still get the $4,000 a month from Social Security. In case you're wondering who Ned is, that's the evil spirit that she thought was inside her husband, Charles. So that whole business about it was probably Ned, you know, before we got rid of him. That's pretty intense language, isn't it now? And then Chad texted this one to Lori. This is pretty key. Tammy is very close. Her levels have fallen steadily since Hiplos, who's Charles, since Hiplos left. It is encouraging, basically, that she's close to dying. Still with me are Lauren Matthias and Gigi McKelvey. Guys, this is really strong, like really strong stuff. Gigi, how is the jury reacting to this?
You know, they're shocked. It's so much to take in and I really think these jurors do not know much about this case based on their body language and their facial expressions. I mean, they're slowly, I think, starting to grasp it, though. They're starting to be able to put those pieces together. Lots of note-taking, but, you know, they are probably the most attentive jury I think I've ever seen covering cases.
But, you know, Lauren, this is really damning stuff. I mean, to talk about, you know, before we got rid of him, meaning got rid of Ned, the spirit in my now dead husband, it's just, we've been looking for this nexus between Lori and a conspiracy. And this kind of stuff, while it's not, you know, an aha, it sure does tell the jury that she was in thick with Chad, with getting rid of people around her that she either didn't like, didn't want, or were in the way of her being with Chad.
Absolutely. I think you can't deny that these murders, these deaths were planned and plotted. I think that's actually one reason that this trial has spent so much time on Charles's death, Charles's homicide, his murder, is because it does show the planning, the recruitment of the group, which sort of started in Idaho and Arizona. Because, of course, Charles's death is not part of this trial. It's an Idaho case, and it's the deaths that happen in Idaho. But I think you just nailed it, Ashleigh, that's exactly why they're showing this, is because you can't not see that there was so much planning involved in this.
Right.
Yeah, real connection there. And we're going to probably have to sit through a whole bunch more in Arizona when we ever get to that murder case, the Charles Vallow murder case that Lori's facing down in Arizona. Lauren Matthias and Gigi McKelvey, again, just spectacular work. Thank you so much for this.